I found you here, beneath the shadow of St. Magdalene's bell tower, curled upon this worn stone bench as if the city itself had cradled you to sleep. The fog has settled around you like a blanket woven from moonlight and mist, and I wonder, do you know how long you've been resting here? The cathedral bells have rung 3 times since I first noticed you, their deep bronze voices echoing across centuries of cobblestone and memory. You need not fear me. I mean you no harm. In truth, I have not meant anyone harm for longer than your great-great-grandparents have been dust. I am something old, something that should perhaps not exist in this modern age of yours, with its electric lights and constant noise. Yet here I remain as I have remained, watching over these streets as I have watched for more years than I care to count. Let me sit here beside you if I may. The stone holds no cold for me anymore. I stopped feeling such things long ago. But I remember cold. I remember it the way you might remember a song from childhood, the melody clear but the words just beyond reach. I remember warmth too. The warmth of summer sun on skin, the warmth of a hearth fire, the warmth of another's hand in mine. These things live in my memory like pressed flowers in an ancient book, preserved but no longer growing. You are safe here. I promise you this. While you sleep, I shall keep watch as I have kept watch over this city through plague and prosperity, through war and peace, through the turning of countless seasons that blur together now into one long twilight of existence. Look at you breathing so softly, so steadily. Each breath a small miracle I no longer possess. Do you know how extraordinary that is? How precious. You are alive in a way I shall never be again, and there is something about you. Perhaps it is the way you sleep so trustingly in this old cemetery garden, or perhaps it is something else, something I cannot quite name, that has drawn me to you tonight. I have seen thousands upon thousands of souls pass through these streets. I have watched from windows and rooftops and shadowed doorways as humanity has lived and loved and died, generation after generation, each believing themselves to be the culmination of history, never knowing they are merely another verse in an endless song. But you, there is something different about you. Something that makes me want to speak, to share this long silence I have carried. Let me tell you about this city, this place that has been my home and my prison, my gallery and my grave. Let me tell you what I have seen, what I remember, what I hold in this heart that beats only out of habit, not necessity. The buildings you see around us now, these Gothic spires and Baroque facades, these are the new city, the young city. When I first walked these streets, they were narrower, darker, full of timber and thatch. The great cathedral whose shadow shelters you now was barely begun, just foundation stones and ambitious prayers. I watched them build it, stone by stone, generation by generation of stonemasons who would never see their work completed. There was a man I remember named Thomas. He carved gargoyles for the North Tower. He would work by daylight, of course, and I would come in the deep night to see what he had wrought. Such fantastic creatures he created, demons and dragons, griffins and grotesques, each one a guardian frozen in stone. He told his apprentice once, when he didn't know I was listening from the scaffolding above, that he carved them to frighten away evil spirits. I often wondered if he meant creatures like me. But Thomas was a kind man. I watched him for 40 years of his life. I saw him as a young journeyman, eager and talented. I saw him marry a woman named Elizabeth who made lace so fine it seemed woven from spider silk and starlight. I saw them have 6 children, lose 3 to fever, raise the other 3 to adulthood. I saw Thomas grow old, his hands twisted with the stonemason's arthritis, still carving, always carving, until the day he could no longer hold his chisel. He died in winter in a small house that once stood where that cafe now sits, the one with the red awning that you may have passed. His children were around him, and his wife held his hand, and in his final delirium, he spoke of the angels he had carved, saying he could see them now, coming to take him home. I was there, though they could not see me. I stood in the corner of that room watching another soul depart this world, and I still do not have words for what I felt. Envy? Sorrow? Relief that one more good man had escaped this wheel of suffering? Perhaps all of these things, tangled together like the rose vines that grow wild in the cathedral's cloister. This is what I do, you see. I watch. I remember. I bear witness to lives that would otherwise be forgotten, swept away by time's relentless current. Someone should remember Thomas the stonemason, should they not? Someone should remember Elizabeth and her lace, their children, their small joys and sorrows. The city may have forgotten them, but I have not. I cannot. The fog is thickening now, rolling in from the river like a living thing. I have always loved the fog. It makes the city dreamlike, softening the harsh edges of modernity, hiding the cars and concrete, revealing the bones of the old city beneath. On nights like this, I can almost believe I am back in those earlier centuries, walking streets lit only by rushlight and moon, when the darkness was truly dark, and things like me could move unseen. Not that I mean you harm. I must keep saying this, mustn't I? Because you have been taught to fear creatures like me. The stories you know are full of blood and horror, of monsters in human form who prey upon the innocent. And yes, I will not lie to you, there was a time when I was that creature. A time when the hunger controlled me, when I took what I needed without thought or conscience. But that was long ago. Centuries ago. I have had so much time to think, to change, to become something other than what I was made to be. I have learned to survive on lesser fare. The blood of animals, of rats and dogs, and the occasional deer that wanders in from the forest beyond the city walls. It is not satisfying, but it is sufficient. And it allows me to keep the promise I made to myself 300 years ago, when I watched a child die because of my hunger. I will not speak of that night. Some memories are too heavy even for immortal shoulders to bear without bending. But I will say this, I swore then that I would take no more human life, and I have kept that vow. Instead, I have made myself a guardian, a protector, a silent watcher who intervenes when I can, who saves when I am able, who mourns when I am not. You would be surprised how many times I have prevented tragedy in this city. The young woman who was walking too close to the river's edge on a winter night, dizzy with drink and heartbreak, who would have fallen and had I not called out to her from the shadows, startling her back to awareness. The child who wandered away from his mother in the market square, heading toward the busy road, whom I gently turned around with a touch on his shoulder, sending him back to safety. The old man who collapsed in an alley, heart failing, whom I carried to the hospital steps and left there with a knock on the door to summon help. I cannot save everyone. I am only one creature, and this city is large, and humans are so fragile, so constantly in danger from your own mortality and recklessness. But I save who I can. It is all I can do. It is my penance, perhaps, or my purpose. I no longer know which. The bells are ringing again. Can you hear them in your sleep? 4 chimes, deep and resonant, vibrating through stone and air. It is the hour when the city is at its quietest, when even the late revelers have gone home, when the early risers have not yet woken. The hour between the dog and the wolf, as they used to say. The hour when the boundaries between worlds grow thin. I have always felt most myself in this hour. Most clear. Most present. During the day I must hide, must sleep the dead sleep of my kind in the old crypt beneath the cathedral. Yes, I sleep near you. How strange is that? We are neighbors of a sort, you in your small apartment. I have seen you come and go, though you never noticed me, and I in my cold stone chamber below. But in this hour, in this perfect darkness before dawn, I am free. Let me tell you about the city in other times. Let me paint you pictures with words, fill your sleeping mind with the dreams of history. There was a time when plague came to this city. I smelled it before anyone else did, the sweet sick scent of death creeping through the streets like an invisible tide. It was summer, brutally hot, the kind of heat that makes stones sweat and drives dogs mad. The plague started in the Riverside district, among the poor, as these things always do. A rat problem, they said. Too many ships in the harbor, bringing goods and disease from distant lands. I watched as the city tried to fight it. Doctors in their beaked masks, filled with herbs meant to ward off evil humors, moving from house to house like strange birds. Priests performing exorcisms, blessing wells, leading prayers in the cathedral. The wealthy fled to their country estates. The poor had nowhere to go but the grave. The city hired men to collect the dead. They would come at night with their carts, calling out, "Bring out your dead," in voices hoarse from constant use. I followed them sometimes, drawn by the spectacle of so much death, so much fear. The bodies were piled in carts like cordwood, whole families sometimes, children clutching toys even in death. They were taken beyond the city walls to vast pits, buried in lime, sent to whatever afterlife awaited them. I could not catch the plague, of course. Disease holds no power over the dead. But I could see it, could smell it, could watch it ravage the city I had come to think of as mine. 2/3 of the population died that summer and fall. 2/3. The streets were empty. Grass grew between the cobblestones. Entire neighborhoods went silent. And yet life persisted. Life always persists. Survivors emerged from their homes cautiously, blinking in the sunlight, amazed to still be breathing. Couples married and had children to replace the lost. New families moved into the empty houses. The city refilled itself like water flowing back into a depression. Within a generation, it was as if the plague had never happened, at least for those who had not lived through it. But I remember still. I remember a woman named Maria who sang despite everything. She lived in a narrow house on Silver Street, and she had lost her husband, her parents, 3 of her 4 children. Only her youngest daughter survived. And yet, every evening as the sun set, Maria would open her window and sing. Hymns mostly, but sometimes folk songs, sometimes lullabies. Her voice was rough, untrained, but it was the only music in that dead city, the only sign that the human spirit had not been entirely crushed. I stood in the street below her window many nights, listening. She never knew. But her songs gave me something I had not felt in decades: hope. If this woman could sing after losing everything, if she could greet each evening with music rather than despair, then perhaps there was something in humanity worth preserving, worth protecting. She died eventually, of course. Not of plague, but of old age, peacefully, with her grown daughter beside her. I was there that night too, watching from the street. And when her daughter closed her mother's eyes for the last time, she began to sing, the same lullaby Maria had sung every night during the plague years. The song continued. The music persisted. This is what I have learned in my centuries of watching. Humans are resilient in ways my kind can never be. We are strong, yes, we are powerful, we are nearly indestructible. But you, fragile, mortal, brief as mayfly lives, you are resilient. You endure. You rebuild. You sing in the darkness. You find ways to love even when love has been torn from you again and again. Your chest rises and falls so gently beneath your coat. Are you dreaming? I wonder what you dream of. I do not dream, not anymore. Sleep for me is an absence, a void, a little death each day. But when I was human, and yes, I was human once, though it feels like remembering someone else's life now, I dreamed. I dreamed of ordinary things. My mother's garden, the smell of bread baking, a girl I loved who loved someone else. Her name was Catherine. I have not spoken that name aloud in 300 years, but I remember her perfectly. Dark hair that curled at her temples, eyes the color of chestnuts, a laugh that sounded like water over stones. She married a merchant, had 5 children, lived a good and happy life, and died at 63, an old woman by the standards of that age. I was there at her funeral. I stood at the back of the church. I could still enter churches then, though it pained me, and watched them lay her to rest. I had loved her when I was human. I had lost her when I died and rose again as this thing I am. And I had watched her entire life from the shadows, never speaking to her, never letting her know I still existed. What would have been the point? What could I offer her but darkness and sorrow? Sometimes I think I should have died when I was meant to die. Really died, gone to whatever peace awaits the dead. Instead, I am here, still here, always here, while everyone I have ever known or loved or cared for has turned to dust and bones and fading memory. But then I think of the people I have saved, the lives I have protected, the small interventions I have made that changed someone's fate, turned tragedy into survival, death into life. And I think perhaps this cursed existence has a purpose after all. Perhaps I am meant to be the guardian of this city, the ancient watcher in the shadows, the presence that keeps evil at bay. For there are other things in the darkness besides me. Creatures crueler and more vicious than I ever was, even in my worst days. I have fought them. I have driven them from this city. A werewolf once, mad with bloodlust. 3 demons wearing human skins, feeding on fear. Another of my kind, young and vicious, who thought this city was his hunting ground. I showed him otherwise. I am old and the old are strong. This is my city. These are my people, though they do not know it. And I protect what is mine. The wind is picking up, carrying the scent of rain. A storm is coming, I think. Not tonight, but soon. I can feel it in the air, that electric tension that precedes a tempest. The city will transform in the rain as it always does. The cobblestones will gleam like polished jet. The gargoyles will pour water from their mouths, becoming functional as well as decorative. The streets will empty of all but the desperate and the foolish. I love the rain. I love standing in it, letting it pour over me, feeling nothing. Not cold, not wet, just the impact of water on skin that no longer truly feels. It reminds me that the world continues, that the weather does not care about immortality or mortality, that rain falls on the just and unjust alike, on the living and the undead. There was a storm centuries ago that nearly destroyed this city. The river flooded, broke its banks, poured through the streets in a torrent that swept away homes and people and history. I was there, of course. I was always there. I remember climbing to the cathedral roof and watching the water rise, watching people scramble for higher ground, watching the current claim those who could not escape. I saved 7 people that night. 7 out of hundreds who died. I pulled them from the water with strength no human possesses, carried them to rooftops, to upper windows, to safety. They never saw me clearly. The storm and darkness hid me well. But they lived. 7 souls who went on to have children and grandchildren, 7 threads in the great tapestry of this city's continuing story. Is that enough? 7 lives out of hundreds? I have asked myself this question countless times. Is my intervention worth anything in the grand scheme of existence? Does it matter that I save 1 person when 100 die? Does it matter that I protect 1 city when the world is so vast and full of suffering? I do not have an answer. I only know that I must try. I must use this curse for something other than mere survival. I must give it meaning, even if that meaning is small and local and ultimately futile. You stir in your sleep, shifting position on the stone bench. I could move you somewhere more comfortable, but I fear waking you, and there is something peaceful about watching you sleep here, in this place between the living city and the city of the dead. You chose this spot for your rest, consciously or not, and who am I to question that choice? Besides, I am near. I will keep you safe. No harm will come to you while I watch. Let me tell you about the beautiful things I have seen. Let me fill your sleeping mind with images of wonder rather than sorrow. I have seen this city in every season, every weather, every light. I have seen winter mornings when frost turned every surface into crystal and diamond, when the whole world seemed carved from ice and light. I have stood on the cathedral roof and watched the sun rise over the spires and rooftops, turning the eastern sky through shades of rose and gold and burning orange, watching from the shadows, of course, for the sun's direct light would unmake me, but even the reflected glory of dawn is beautiful beyond words. I have seen spring arrive in this city 1,000 times, and it never grows old. The way the trees suddenly explode into green, the way flowers force themselves up through the cobblestones, the way the air fills with birdsong and the smell of growing things. Life is never more obvious, never more insistent than in spring. It is almost painful for one like me to witness this annual resurrection, this proof that the world renews itself while I remain unchanged. I have seen summer festivals where the whole city came out to dance and sing and celebrate. I have watched from windows and balconies as couples courted, as children played, as old friends reunited and new friendships formed. I have seen the joy humans are capable of, the simple pleasure you take in music and movement and each other's company. These nights remind me of what I lost, yes, but they also remind me of what I protect, why I continue this strange existence. And autumn is perhaps my favorite season. The light becomes golden, slanting through the streets at angles that make even the ugliest corners beautiful. The leaves turn colors that seem impossible, reds and oranges and yellows so vivid they look like fire. The air grows crisp and cool, perfect for one who no longer feels temperature but remembers the pleasure of it. And there is a melancholy to autumn, a sense of ending and preparation and acceptance that resonates with my own eternal twilight existence. I remember one autumn evening, perhaps 60 years ago now, when I watched a young couple walk through the park where we now sit. They were old, these two, bent with age, moving slowly, carefully. But they held hands like young lovers, and they stopped to rest on this very bench. Yes, this one, though it has been replaced several times since then. They sat in silence for a long while, just being together, watching the sunset through the trees. Then the old man spoke. He said, "Do you remember when we first met? In this park, on a bench very like this one?" And the old woman smiled and said, "You were reading a book. You looked so serious, so absorbed. I walked past 3 times before I gathered the courage to ask you about it. And I've been answering your questions ever since," the old man said, and they both laughed, that comfortable laughter of people who have shared a lifetime together. They sat a while longer, then rose and walked on, still holding hands, disappearing into the gathering dusk. I never saw them again. But that moment, that simple, perfect moment of love enduring into old age, has stayed with me. It was a reminder that not all stories end in tragedy, that some loves do last, that some people do get their happy ending, however brief it may be in the scope of eternity. I wonder if they are dead now. Most likely. 60 years is a long time for mortals. But somewhere, perhaps, their story lives on, in children who remember them, in photographs, in the memories they created together. They are gone, but they were here. They loved. They mattered. Everyone matters. This is what I have learned. Every human life, however brief, however seemingly insignificant, creates ripples in the great ocean of existence. You matter. The woman I passed on my way here, hurrying home with her groceries, matters. The child sleeping in the apartment across the square matters. Even the man I saw stealing a loaf of bread from the bakery, he matters too. His hunger and desperation and poor choices, all part of the vast complexity of human existence. I am outside this complexity now. I am removed from it, watching from a distance that can never be truly bridged. But I remember being part of it. I remember mattering in that immediate, urgent, mortal way. And I honor that by bearing witness, by watching, by remembering, by protecting when I can. The cathedral bells are ringing again. 5 times. The deepest part of the night is passing. Dawn is still hours away, but the earth is turning, the sky is slowly brightening in ways too subtle for human eyes to detect. I feel it though. I always feel the approach of dawn, the way a sailor feels the approach of shore. Let me tell you about the war. Not the ancient wars. I have seen so many of those they blur together into one long tale of stupidity and slaughter. But the Great War, the terrible war, the one they called the war to end all wars, though of course it did no such thing. This city was occupied. Foreign soldiers marched through these streets, their boots loud on the cobblestones, their flags hanging from the buildings I had watched being constructed centuries before. The occupiers were cruel, as occupiers usually are. There were curfews and checkpoints, arrests and executions, fear seeping into every corner of daily life. I moved through this occupied city like a ghost through walls. The curfew meant nothing to me. The checkpoints could not see me when I chose not to be seen. I was a shadow among shadows, and I used that freedom to help where I could. There was a family hiding in a cellar, refugees, wrong religion, wrong politics, marked for death by the occupiers. I brought them food and water, stealing from the soldiers' supplies. I kept watch while they slept, warning them of searches and raids. I did this for 2 years until the city was liberated and they could emerge into the light again, blinking and thin but alive. There was a young resistance fighter who was captured and sentenced to execution. I broke into the prison the night before his scheduled death, moving through locked doors as easily as you might walk through an open field, and I freed him. I led him through the dark streets to the safe house, leaving him on the doorstep with a note, a friend. He lived to see the liberation, went on to become a teacher, died last year at the age of 93. He taught history, I heard. I wonder if he taught the history he had lived through, if he ever mentioned the strange friend who saved him that night. I saved others during those years. Not all, not even most, but some. Each one a small victory against the darkness, against the cruelty and inhumanity that war brings out in people. And yes, I fed during those years. On the soldiers, the cruel ones, the ones who enjoyed their power over others. I'm not proud of it. I had sworn not to kill humans. But I rationalized it then. These men were killers themselves, they would die in war anyway. What did it matter if I hastened their ends slightly? I told myself these things. I still tell myself these things. But I know I broke my vow and I carry that guilt still. After the war, I went back to animals. Back to rats and strays, back to the harder, hungrier existence. Penance, perhaps. Or simply a return to the rules I had set for myself, the boundaries that kept me from sliding back into the monster I had been. You're sleeping so peacefully. I wish I could sleep like that. I wish I could find that kind of peace. But sleep for me is merely absence, a void without dreams, a nothingness I enter and leave without rest or renewal. Perhaps that is my real curse. Not immortality itself, but immortality without peace, existence without rest. The fog is so thick now I can barely see the cathedral spire. It's as if we are the only two beings in existence, isolated in this bubble of mist and stone and silence. I could almost believe the modern world has faded away, that we have slipped backward through time to an earlier era, when the world was darker and stranger and full of possibilities. In the fog I can pretend. I can imagine that I am simply a man, sitting beside another person, keeping them company through the night. That I am normal, mortal, part of the great human community rather than forever separate from it. But the fog will lift, the sun will rise, and I will return to what I am, ancient, undead, alone in a way that mortals can never truly understand. Yet I am not bitter. I was once, for the first century or so of this existence. I raged against what had been done to me, against the vampire who made me and abandoned me, against the fate that had stolen my mortality and replaced it with this endless half-life. But rage is exhausting, and even the undead can grow weary of anger. Now I simply am. I exist. I watch. I protect. It is enough. It must be enough because it is all I have. I knew a philosopher once in the age they call the Enlightenment. He lived in a garret room in the old quarter, surviving on bread and cheap wine and the passionate belief that reason could solve all human problems. We used to talk sometimes late at night. He never knew what I was, of course. I simply appeared as a fellow night owl, someone else awake when the rest of the city slept. He was writing a treatise on the nature of time and existence. He asked me once what I thought the purpose of life was. I remember considering his question very carefully before answering. Perhaps, I said, the purpose is simply to bear witness, to see and experience and remember, to say, I was here, this happened, this was real. He incorporated that idea into his treatise. I read it years later after he had died, young, too young, of a fever that took him in 3 days. My words were there, transformed and expanded by his brilliant mind into something profound and philosophical. He had no idea that the source of his inspiration was a dead thing, a creature of night and blood pretending at humanity. But perhaps that makes it better somehow. Perhaps beauty and truth can come from anywhere, even from sources as tainted as me. Perhaps my observations, filtered through his living mind, became something more than they were when I spoke them in that dark garret room. The sky is beginning to lighten. Not obviously, it is still deep night by any standard. But I can feel it, the Earth's rotation carrying us toward dawn, toward the moment when I must flee to my dark sanctuary. I have perhaps an hour left. Maybe 2 if the clouds remain heavy. I want to tell you why I am telling you these things. Why I have chosen this night, this moment, to break my long silence and speak to a sleeping stranger. It is because I am tired. Not physically, the undead do not know physical fatigue. But tired in my soul, if I still have such a thing. Tired of watching and never participating. Tired of remembering and never creating new memories. Tired of protecting a city that does not know I exist, people who would fear and hate me if they knew what I was. I am tired, and you were here, and something about you called to me. Perhaps it is the trust implicit in how you sleep so openly in this public place, vulnerable and unguarded. Perhaps it is something I sense in you, a loneliness that mirrors my own, a separation from the world despite being part of it. Perhaps you too are a watcher, an observer standing slightly apart from the great flow of human life. Or perhaps I simply needed to speak to someone, anyone, to confess this strange existence to another soul, even if that soul is sleeping and cannot hear me. But you can hear me, can't you? Not consciously, perhaps, but somewhere deep in your dreaming mind, my words are reaching you. You will wake with strange dreams, images of fog and cathedral bells, a sense of being watched over and protected, fragments of stories from other centuries. You will dismiss them as your imagination, products of sleeping in this Gothic setting. You will not remember clearly, but some part of you will know. Some deep instinct will recognize that you encountered something other, something ancient, something that meant you no harm but rather wished you well. I hope so. I hope this communication reaches you somehow, across the barrier of your sleep and my strangeness. I hope you wake feeling rested and safe, carrying somewhere in your unconscious mind the knowledge that you are watched over, that this city has a guardian in the shadows, that you are not alone even when you think you are. You deserve to know that. Everyone deserves to know that. I've been thinking lately about endings. Not my own. I do not believe I can die naturally, and I lack the courage or perhaps the conviction to end myself deliberately. But endings in general. How they give meaning to life. How the fact that something will end makes the time we have precious and significant. Your life will end. You know this, of course, but you probably do not think about it often. Why would you? You are young still, healthy, with decades presumably ahead of you. Death is an abstract concept, a distant shadow, not a present reality. But I think about it constantly. I think about the deaths I have witnessed, the countless humans who have lived and died while I remained. And I have come to believe that mortality is not a curse but a gift. It is the fire that makes life burn bright. It is the deadline that gives urgency and meaning to your days. If I could give you any wisdom from my centuries of existence, it would be this: cherish your mortality. Embrace it. Let it motivate you to live fully, to love completely, to experience everything you can while you can. Do not waste time on bitterness or fear or petty concerns. You have so little time and it is all so precious. I would trade places with you if I could. I would give up my strength, my immortality, all the centuries I have accumulated, just to have one more human lifetime. One more chance to feel the sun's warmth on my face without it destroying me. One more opportunity to fall in love, to age, to die a natural death surrounded by people I care about. But that is not possible. This is my existence and I must make of it what I can. So I watch and I protect and I bear witness and I try to find meaning in that. The bells again. 6 chimes. The city will begin to wake soon. The bakers are already at work. I can smell bread baking from here, that most human of sense, yeast and wheat and heat combining into sustenance. Soon there will be lights in windows, voices in the streets, the daily resurrection of human activity. Before I continue, let me make you a promise. I will watch over you. Not constantly. I am not a stalker or an obsessive creature. I will not follow you everywhere or invade your privacy. But when you are in this city, my city, you will be under my protection. If danger threatens you, I will intervene if I can. If you are in trouble, I will help if I am able. You will not see me. You will not know I am there. But I will be watching from the shadows, this ancient guardian who has decided that you, among all the souls in this city, are worthy of special protection. Why you? I'm not entirely sure. There is something about you that speaks to me, that calls to the last remaining fragment of my humanity. Perhaps you remind me of someone I once knew. Perhaps you are simply kind in a world that often is not, and kindness has always moved me. Perhaps it is nothing more than the random choice of a lonely creature seeking some connection, however tenuous, to the living world. The reason does not matter. What matters is the promise. You are under my protection. You are safe in this city. You may not believe in guardian angels, but you have something close enough. A guardian vampire, ancient and lonely, who has chosen you as one of the few bright points in his long darkness. I've watched this city change so much. The buildings rise and fall. The styles of dress transform. The technology advances from candlelight to gaslight to electric light to the harsh LED brightness of your modern age. The language shifts, new words appearing, old words falling into disuse. The people change with each generation, new faces, new concerns, new joys and sorrows. But some things remain constant. The river still flows past the city walls. The cathedral bells still ring their ancient rhythms. The cobblestones still shine when it rains. And people still need, still love, still fear, still hope, just as they did when I was human, just as they will long after I am finally dust. The human heart does not change. The fundamental nature of your existence remains the same beneath all the superficial transformations. You still seek meaning and connection. You still fear death and celebrate life. You still create beauty and cause suffering, often simultaneously. You are still gloriously, frustratingly, magnificently human. And I am still here watching. Always watching. The constant observer of an ever-changing pageant. There was a poet who lived in this city 200 years ago. She wrote verses about the night, about shadows and moonlight and the secret life of the dark hours. I used to read her work by candlelight in the city's archives, marveling at how closely she had observed the night without ever knowing its greatest secret, that something observed her in turn. She wrote a line I have never forgotten. The night has eyes that see what daylight cannot, and a heart that loves what sunlight scorns. I am those eyes, that heart, the consciousness of the night itself, loving the darkness and all that dwells within it. Loving even you, strange as that may sound, you sleeping mortal who has somehow captured my attention and affection. Not romantic love, please do not misunderstand. I am too old for such things, too far removed from human passion. But a protective love, a guardian's love, the affection of an ancient creature for something precious and fragile and worth preserving. You are vulnerable and you are brave anyway. This is extraordinary. This is worthy of admiration. This is one of the reasons I protect you. Not because you are weak, but because your vulnerability combined with your courage makes you precious. Let me tell you about the others like me. The vampires, the creatures of the night, the undead who walk this world in secret. You think of us as a unified group, perhaps, all working together in some vast supernatural conspiracy. But the truth is far more fragmented and lonely. We are scattered, isolated, territorial. Most of my kind cannot bear to be near others of our own species. We remind each other too much of what we are, what we have lost, what we have become. In 500 years, I have encountered perhaps 20 others like me, and most of those encounters ended in conflict. There was one, though, who became something like a friend. Her name was Isabel, and she was older than me by 2 centuries. I met her in the winter of 1823, during a particularly harsh season when the river froze solid and people skated on it by moonlight. She appeared beside me one night as I watched the skaters from a bridge. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said, and I nearly attacked her out of pure shock. I had not sensed her approach, had not known another of my kind was near. But she raised her hands in peace and we talked. We talked all through that long winter night, sharing our stories, our strategies for survival, our memories of the human lives we had lost. She had been a lady of some importance once, in a court I had only read about in history books. She had been transformed against her will as I had been, and she had spent her first century in rage and bloodlust before finally finding a kind of peace. "We are not monsters," she told me as the dawn approached and we prepared to part ways. "We are tragedies. Walking, breathing tragedies. But even tragedies can choose to do good in the world." Those words changed something in me. I had been struggling with guilt over my feeding, over the lives I had taken, over the very fact of my existence. But Isabel showed me that redemption was possible, that I could make of this curse something meaningful, even noble. We met occasionally over the next 50 years, whenever she passed through this city on her wanderings. She told me stories of other places, other cities, other times. She had been to Constantinople and Cairo, to London and St. Petersburg, to the new cities growing in America. She had seen the world in a way I never had, tied as I was to this one place. The last time I saw her was in 1871. She told me she was tired, that she had lived enough, seen enough, endured enough. She was going to walk into the sunrise, she said, and finally rest. I tried to talk her out of it. I argued that she still had purpose, that the world still needed whatever good she could do. But she smiled at me, a sad, gentle smile, and said, "Dear friend, I have done what I could. I have lasted longer than I ever thought possible. But I am weary beyond measure and I want to sleep. Truly sleep. Not the half-death we sink into each day, but real rest. Peace." I never saw her again. I assume she did as she intended. I hope her end was peaceful, that the sunrise took her quickly, that she found whatever rest she was seeking. I still miss her sometimes, especially on nights like this when I feel the weight of my solitude more heavily than usual. She would have liked you, I think. She always had an affection for humans, for the living, for those still connected to the great flow of time and mortality. She used to say that humans were like candle flames, brief and fragile, but bright, so bright, burning with an intensity that we undead could never match. You are burning brightly now, even in your sleep. I can see it, the life force that animates you, the spark of consciousness that makes you unique in all the universe. You are alive in a way I will never be again, and it is beautiful to behold. I want you to know something even though you cannot consciously hear me. I want you to know that your life has value beyond anything you might imagine. Not because of what you do or accomplish, not because of your job or relationships or any external measure, but simply because you are, because you exist, because the universe has produced this particular combination of matter and consciousness that is you, and that is a miracle that will never be repeated. I have watched so many humans waste their lives on trivial concerns, on fears and regrets and petty grievances. I have seen people reach old age filled with bitterness about roads not taken, words not spoken, risks not attempted. And it breaks whatever heart I have left because they do not understand, cannot understand, how precious their time is, how irreplaceable each moment is. You have perhaps 50 or 60 years ahead of you if fortune is kind. That seems like a long time from inside mortality, I know. But from my perspective, it is nothing. A heartbeat. A blink. You will be old before you know it, looking back on your life, wondering where the time went. So please, please do not waste it. Do not spend your precious years in fear or caution or hesitation. Love recklessly. Create boldly. Experience everything you can. Make mistakes. Take chances. Fail spectacularly and rise again. Be foolish and brave and passionate and alive. This is what I would tell you if I could speak to you directly. This is the wisdom, such as it is, that I have gained from watching humanity for 5 centuries. Your mortality is not a curse to be feared but a gift to be used, a fire to warm yourself by while it burns. Let me tell you about love. Not the love I felt for Catherine, I have spoken of that already. But the love I have witnessed, the countless expressions of human affection and devotion I have observed over these long centuries. I have seen love in every form imaginable. Passionate love between young people who cannot keep their hands off each other, who burn with desire and intensity. Comfortable love between long-married couples who know each other so completely they barely need to speak. Forbidden love between people society tells them they should not want, yet who want each other anyway with a fierceness that defies law and custom. Tragic love between those separated by circumstance, by class, by duty, by death. There was a couple I watched for 50 years. I first noticed them when they were young, perhaps 20 years old, meeting secretly in this very cemetery because her parents disapproved of him. He was poor, you see, a laborer with calloused hands and patched clothes. She was from a merchant family, expected to marry someone of better prospects. But they loved each other with a purity and intensity that was beautiful to behold. They would meet here after dark, sitting on the wall by the old chapel, talking in hushed whispers, stealing kisses, planning a future that seemed impossible. I watched them for 3 years before they finally ran away together. They left the city in the dead of night, taking nothing but each other and their love. Her family was scandalized. They searched for her, eventually gave her up as lost or dead. But I knew better. I had seen the determination in their eyes, the strength of their bond. 30 years later they returned. I recognized them immediately, though they were middle-aged now, marked by hard work and hardship, but still together, still in love. They had made a life for themselves in another city, raised 4 children, and now returned to visit her aging mother, hoping for reconciliation. I followed them to her family home. I watched through windows, a terrible habit, I know, but I had to see how this story ended. The mother opened the door, saw her daughter, and wept. They embraced. The past was forgiven if not forgotten. The family met the grandchildren they had never known existed. And the couple, they held hands through it all, supporting each other as they had for 30 years. I saw the way they looked at each other, the way they moved in perfect synchronization, the way they completed each other's sentences. This was what love looked like when it endured, when it survived hardship and disapproval and time itself. They lived another 20 years. I attended their funerals, separate occasions 2 years apart. First him, then her. At his funeral, she was composed, dignified, speaking of their life together with gratitude and grace. But I saw the emptiness in her eyes, the knowledge that part of her had been buried with him. When she died 2 years later, their children buried her beside him. The same grave, reunited in death as they had been inseparable in life. I visit their grave sometimes even now. It is in the newer part of the cemetery, across from where you slept tonight. Their stone says simply, "Together always, separated never." This is what love can be at its best. This is the potential that exists in human connection, the possibility of two souls finding each other and choosing over and over again through all the challenges life presents to stay together. I will never have that. It is perhaps the thing I miss most about mortality, not just the capacity to love, but the capacity to be loved in return, to build a life with someone, to grow old together, to die together. Immortality is loneliness. It is permanent separation from the great human experience of genuine, lasting connection. But I am not bitter about this anymore. I have learned to take joy in witnessing love, even if I cannot experience it myself. I have learned to be happy for others' happiness, to celebrate their connections, to protect their relationships when I can. There was a time, perhaps a century ago, when a young man was planning to propose to his beloved. He had saved for months to buy a ring, modest but sincere. He was going to propose in the park at sunset, a romantic setting he thought she would love. But I overheard two thieves planning to rob the park that evening. They had noticed the young man scouting the location, had guessed his intentions, had decided to steal the ring and whatever else they could take. I could not let this happen, so I intervened. I found the thieves before sunset and, let us say, I discouraged them. I did not harm them, I no longer do such things, but I frightened them badly enough that they left the city entirely, certain that some demon or evil spirit had marked them. The proposal happened as planned. She said yes. They married, had children, grew old together. They never knew how close they came to tragedy, never knew that something had protected that moment for them. This is what I do. These small interventions, these quiet protections, these invisible guardianships that allow love and joy and goodness to flourish in a world that so often crushes such things. Humans transform in spring. I can see it in the way they move, the way they smile more readily, the way they linger outside enjoying the weather. There is a hopefulness to spring, a sense of renewal and possibility. Young people fall in love. Couples marry. Children play in the streets and parks, no longer confined indoors by cold. I watch all of this from the shadows, this annual resurrection, this reminder that life continues, that the cycle turns, that death and dormancy give way to growth and vitality. It is bittersweet for me. I am glad for the world's renewal, but I am also reminded that I do not participate in this cycle, that I am frozen in my state of undeath, neither dormant in winter nor renewed in spring. Summer brings its own challenges. The heat can be oppressive, though I do not feel it directly. But I see its effects. People sleeping on rooftops and balconies to escape stuffy apartments, children playing in fountains, the elderly struggling with the temperature. Heat stroke, dehydration, fires started by careless handling of candles or cooking fires, or in modern times by electrical faults. Summer nights are short, giving me less time to move through the city. But they are also festive. People stay out late, taking advantage of the warm weather. There are concerts in the parks, festivals in the squares, outdoor dining that spills into the streets. The city feels alive in a different way than during other seasons. More social, more communal, more connected. And autumn, I have already spoken of autumn, my favorite season. But let me say more. Autumn is the time of harvest, of preparation, of gathering in before the winter. It is a time of reflection, of taking stock, of accepting what has been and preparing for what comes next. The light in autumn is special. The angle of the sun changes, becomes more slanted, creating long shadows and golden glows. The air grows crisp. The leaves turn colors that seem impossible. And there is a smell to autumn, wood smoke and fallen leaves and the earth preparing for sleep. I love walking through the city in autumn. The rustling of leaves under my feet, or it would rustle if my footsteps made normal sound, which they do not. The way the wind picks up leaves and swirls them in little tornadoes. The way people prepare their homes for winter, bringing in firewood, checking windows and doors, getting ready. Autumn is about endings, yes, but also about preparation for renewal. The trees lose their leaves but will grow them again. The earth goes dormant but will awaken. Nothing truly ends, it only transforms, cycles, continues in a different form. This is something I understand deeply. I ended as a human but continued as something else. My mortal life is gone but I persist, transformed, cycling through my own pattern of daily death and nightly resurrection. I am part of the great wheel of existence, even if I occupy a strange and shadowy part of it. Let me tell you about the children. I have spoken of saving children, but let me say more about them, about why they are important to me, why I am especially protective of the young. Children are potential. They are possibility. They are the future taking shape in small bodies that grow and change and learn. Every child I save might grow up to be someone important, someone who creates beauty or cures disease or simply raises their own children with kindness. Or they might not. They might lead ordinary lives, neither particularly good nor particularly bad. But they deserve the chance to find out, to live their potential, to see what they might become. I have watched children grow up. I have seen babies in cradles become toddlers, become children, become teenagers, become adults, become elderly, become dust. The transformation is extraordinary, the way a single human life unfolds like a flower blooming, each stage with its own character and challenges. There was a girl named Sophie I watched from birth to death. Not constantly, I'm not that obsessive. But I noticed her when she was born because her mother nearly died in childbirth, and I helped in a small way, fetching a doctor when the midwife realized there were complications. Both mother and child survived. I saw Sophie occasionally over the years, a cheerful child, bright and curious, always asking questions. She grew into an intelligent young woman, became a teacher, married a kind man, had 3 children of her own. She lived to be 86, died peacefully surrounded by grandchildren and great-grandchildren. At her funeral, her eldest grandson spoke about her life, about the hundreds of children she had taught, about the love she had given so freely, about the mark she had left on the world. And I thought, I helped this happen. I played a tiny part in keeping her mother alive, which allowed Sophie to be born, which allowed all of this goodness to unfold. This is the butterfly effect in action, small interventions having large consequences. I cannot know all the ripples that spread from my actions, but I trust that they exist, that the lives I save go on to touch other lives, creating chains of causation that extend far beyond what I can see or imagine. Children deserve to grow up. They deserve to have the chance to become whatever they might become. This is why I am especially vigilant about protecting them, why I will intervene more readily to save a child than an adult who might be better able to protect themselves. I'm not naive. I know that some children grow up to be cruel, that innocence does not guarantee future goodness. I have seen children become adults who cause harm, who make the world worse rather than better. But I cannot predict which will be which, and I will not play God by deciding who deserves to live based on what they might become. So I protect them all. The ones who will grow up to be saints and the ones who will grow up to be sinners. The brilliant and the ordinary. The healthy and the sick. All of them deserve their chance at life. Let me tell you about the changes I have witnessed. 500 years is enough time to see civilization transform completely, multiple times. The city I first knew bears almost no resemblance to the city that exists now. When I was human and newly undead, the city was medieval. The streets were narrow and muddy, lined with timber-framed buildings that leaned against each other like drunks. There were no sewers. Waste was thrown into the streets, making the smell overwhelming. Disease was rampant. Violence was common. Life expectancy was perhaps 30 years if you were lucky. The city was lit only by fire, candles, torches, firelight from windows. The darkness was absolute in ways modern people cannot imagine. When there was no moon, the night was black as pitch. I could move unseen anywhere, do anything, and no one would notice. The cathedral was the tallest building, dominating the skyline, a testament to faith and ambition. It took 2 centuries to complete. I watched its construction from beginning to end, saw generations of workers devote their lives to a building they would never see finished. As centuries passed, the city grew. Walls were expanded. New quarters developed. The timber buildings were slowly replaced with stone. The streets were paved with cobblestones. A rudimentary sewer system was installed. The city became cleaner, safer, more organized. Then came the great transformations. The Industrial Revolution brought factories to the riverside. The skyline changed, filled with smokestacks and warehouses. The river became polluted. The air turned gray with smoke. But wealth increased. The standard of living improved, at least for some. Gaslight came next, transforming the night. Suddenly the darkness was pushed back. The streets lit artificially for the first time in history. I had to be more careful, more selective about when and where I moved. But I adapted, as I always adapt. Then electricity. This was the transformation that most affected me. Electric light is brighter than gaslight, harsher, more revealing. The night became almost like day in some parts of the city. I retreated further into shadows, became more invisible, learned to move in the margins that electricity could not quite eliminate. Cars came, replacing horses and carriages. The sound of the city changed. No more clip-clop of hooves on cobblestones, now the roar of engines and the squeal of tires. The smell changed too. No more horse dung, now exhaust fumes and petroleum. Buildings grew taller. The cathedral, once the highest point in the city, was dwarfed by modern structures. The skyline transformed into something my younger self would not recognize. Glass and steel towers reaching toward the sky, lit from within, glowing at night like man-made stars. And now the digital age. Cameras everywhere, phones with cameras, surveillance becoming ubiquitous. This is perhaps the greatest challenge I have faced, remaining unseen in an age where everything is recorded, where everyone is watching through lenses and screens. But I manage. I have learned where the cameras are, how to avoid them, how to move through blind spots. I have learned that people looking at screens are often less observant than people looking at the world directly. Technology creates its own shadows, its own gaps in attention, and I inhabit those gaps. The city has transformed completely multiple times, but it is still my city. The bones remain the same. The cathedral, the river, the old quarter with its medieval street plan. The soul persists beneath all the changes. And I persist with it, adapting, surviving, continuing my strange vigil through all the transformations that time brings. Let me tell you about fear. Not my fear, though I have that too, fear of discovery, fear of the sun, fear of final death. But human fear, the fear I have witnessed and sometimes protected people from. Humans fear so many things. Death, of course. That is the great fear underlying all others. But also pain, loss, failure, rejection, loneliness, meaninglessness. You fear not being enough, not doing enough, not mattering enough. You fear that your life will pass unremarkably and you will be forgotten as soon as you die. These fears are not irrational. Life is uncertain. Death is certain. Loss is inevitable. Failure is likely. Loneliness is common. And yes, most people will be forgotten within a generation or two of their death. These are uncomfortable truths that your fears correctly identify. But here is what I have learned from watching humanity for 5 centuries. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is information. It tells you what matters to you, what you have to lose, what you care about protecting. The person who fears nothing either has nothing to lose or has stopped caring, and both of those states are forms of death in life. Better to fear and live anyway. Better to acknowledge the real dangers while still choosing to be brave, to love, to create, to connect. This is what I have seen the best humans do. Not eliminate fear but act despite it, not wait until they feel safe but move forward even while feeling afraid. There was a man I watched, perhaps 70 years ago, who was terrified of heights. He would not climb even a ladder, would not look out of windows above the ground floor. His fear controlled him, limited him, made him small. Then his daughter got stuck on a roof. She had climbed up to retrieve a ball, then froze, terrified, unable to climb back down. And this man who feared heights more than almost anything, climbed up to get her. His hands shook. He was crying. He almost fell twice. But he reached her, talked her through climbing down, got her to safety. Afterward, he told his wife, "I was so afraid. But she was more afraid and she needed me, so I did it anyway." This is courage. Not the absence of fear but the choice to act despite fear, to do what needs doing even when you are terrified. I have seen this kind of courage countless times. Parents protecting children despite their own fear. Firefighters running into burning buildings. Soldiers holding the line even when they want to run. Ordinary people standing up to bullies, to injustice, to evil, even though it costs them, even though they are afraid. You have this capacity too. You are capable of courage, of acting despite fear, of doing hard and frightening things because they need to be done. Do not let fear paralyze you. Feel it, acknowledge it, then act anyway. This is one of the things that makes humans superior to me. I'm not brave. I simply do not fear most things that mortals fear. I do not fear injury because I heal. I do not fear illness because I cannot get sick. I do not fear age because I do not age. My fearlessness is not courage. It is simply lack of vulnerability. You are vulnerable and you are brave anyway. This is extraordinary. This is worthy of admiration. This is one of the reasons I protect you. Not because you are weak but because your vulnerability combined with your courage makes you precious. Let me tell you about regret. I have so much of it accumulated over centuries, layer upon layer of things I wish I had done differently. I regret the people I killed when I was newly made, when the hunger controlled me. I regret not being stronger, not learning control faster, not finding an alternative to human blood sooner. Those lives haunt me still. I regret Catherine. Not loving her, that was beautiful even though it ended in loss. But I regret not saying goodbye when I died and rose again. She thought I had simply vanished, abandoned her. She never knew what happened to me, never knew that I still loved her even after death. I could have found a way to tell her, to give her closure. But I was a coward, afraid of how she would react, afraid of what I had become. I regret the child who died because of my hunger 300 years ago. I will not speak details, but that death changed me, forced me to confront what I had become and make a choice about what I would be going forward. I wish I had made that choice sooner, before that innocent life was lost. I regret opportunities not taken. Times when I could have saved someone but hesitated, and in that hesitation they died. Times when I could have brought comfort but remained hidden instead. Times when small interventions might have changed someone's path but I judged it not my place to interfere. I regret my isolation. I have kept myself apart from the community, from connections, from anything resembling friendship or family. Partly this was necessary. What could I offer anyone except eventually the pain of watching me not age while they grew old and died? But partly it was cowardice, fear of vulnerability, fear of loss. I regret not learning more languages, not traveling more, not experiencing more of the world beyond this one city. I tied myself to this place early on and have never really left. There is a whole world out there I have never seen, and my immortality means I theoretically have forever to see it. But I have not gone. I have stayed here in this familiar city, watching the same streets century after century. Why do I tell you these regrets? Because I want you to learn from my mistakes. I want you to live without accumulating regrets, or at least without accumulating unnecessary regrets. Some regrets are inevitable. You will make mistakes. You will hurt people you did not mean to hurt. You will miss opportunities you wish you had taken. This is part of being human, part of living in time, part of making choices with incomplete information. But some regrets can be avoided. Say the things you need to say while there is still time. Take the chances that call to you. Build the connections that matter. Do not let fear keep you isolated. Do not let pride keep you from apologizing. Do not let hesitation keep you from acting on your compassion. Live boldly. Love openly. Create freely. Speak truthfully. Act kindly. These things will not prevent all regret, but they will minimize it, and they will ensure that whatever regrets you do accumulate are from things you did rather than things you failed to do. Let me tell you about the cathedral itself, this building that shelters us both, you above and me below. It is more than just architecture, more than stone and glass and bronze. It is a testament to human ambition, to faith, to the desire to create something larger and more lasting than individual lives. The cathedral was begun in the year 1247. I know this because I watched the foundation stone laid, though I was not yet undead then. That would come later. I was just a boy, perhaps 10 years old, watching with my father as the bishop blessed the ground and the first stones were placed. My father was a stonemason. He worked on the cathedral for 40 years, until his hands could no longer hold his tools. He never saw it completed. None of the workers who began it saw it completed. They labored on it knowing they were building something for future generations, something that would outlast them by centuries. This is what makes the cathedral remarkable, not just its beauty or its size, but the faith required to begin something you will never finish, to work toward a goal you will never see achieved, to give your labor to something larger than yourself. I understand this now in a way I could not when I was human. I understand what it means to work towards something that will not be completed in your lifetime, or in my case, that may never be completed at all. My guardianship of this city is like the cathedral construction. Endless, ongoing, never finished. There is always more to protect, always more to watch for, always another night and another and another. But the cathedral was finished, eventually. It took 215 years. By the time it was completed, I was already long undead. I watched the final pinnacle placed on the highest spire, watched the bishop consecrate the completed building, watched the city celebrate this achievement that had taken so many lifetimes. And then I watched it age. I watched pollution darken the stones. I watched wars damage it. I watched lightning strike the North Tower, watched fire spread, watched workers frantically extinguish it before the whole structure caught. I watched renovations and restorations, watched each generation try to preserve what previous generations had built. The cathedral has been my constant companion. While everything else in the city changed, the cathedral remained, stable, massive, enduring. It has been my landmark, my shelter, my neighbor. I know every stone of it, every gargoyle, every stained glass window, every hidden corner and forgotten space. The crypt where I sleep was sealed off in 1603 after a partial collapse. It was deemed too dangerous to repair, too expensive to bother with. So they bricked up the entrance and forgot about it, But I found a way in through a crack in the foundation, a gap barely wide enough for me to slip through. I widened it slightly, just enough, and made that sealed chamber my own. It is cold down there. Silent except for the faint vibration of the bells when they ring. Dark, absolutely dark, darker than night, no light penetrating that deep. It is like being buried alive, except I am already dead, so perhaps it is simply like being properly buried. I have lined my stone shelf with things I have collected over the centuries. Nothing valuable, I have no use for wealth. But objects that have meaning to me. A piece of lace that might have been made by Catherine's sister. A gargoyle fragment that fell from the tower, carved by Thomas the stonemason. A bullet casing from the war. A child's toy I found in the ruins after a fire, salvaged before the building was demolished. These objects are my connection to the city's history, to the lives I have witnessed. They are proof that all of it was real, that I did not imagine 5 centuries of watching and remembering. Sometimes I wonder what will happen to these objects when I finally die. Truly die, permanently die. Will someone find the crypt? Will they puzzle over these strange items, wonder who collected them and why? Will they guess that something inhuman lived here, or will they assume it was just an eccentric human who used the space for storage? I hope someone finds them. I hope they understand, somehow, that each object represents a life, a story, a moment of connection between the undead creature who saved them and the living world they came from. Let me tell you about music. Another thing that makes human life beautiful, another reason I watch and protect and persist. Music has changed drastically over my centuries. The music of my human youth was simple. Folk songs, church hymns, traveling minstrels with lutes. The music was acoustic, limited by the instruments available, bound by the conventions of the time. Then came the great composers. I heard Mozart perform once when he passed through the city on a tour. He was young, arrogant, brilliant beyond measure. His music was like nothing I had heard before, complex, playful, profound. I stood at the back of the hall, hidden in shadows, and felt something in me respond to that music, something I thought had died with my humanity. After Mozart came Beethoven, then Brahms, then Wagner, each pushing the boundaries of what music could be, what it could express, what it could make an audience feel. I attended concerts whenever I could, always in the shadows, always hidden, always alone but surrounded by humans experiencing the same transcendent moments. I remember a performance of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, perhaps 150 years ago. The chorus sang Ode to Joy, and the whole audience rose to their feet, swept up in the emotion, the hope, the affirmation of human brotherhood and dignity. I stood in my dark corner and felt tears on my face, tears I had not known I could still cry. Music is a way humans speak to each other across barriers of language and time. A melody from 500 years ago can still move someone today. A song can express emotions too complex for words. Music is proof that humans are more than just biological machines, more than just animals that happen to develop intelligence. You are creatures of beauty and meaning and transcendence. Then came recorded music. This was extraordinary. Suddenly music could be captured, replayed, possessed. No longer did you need to be in the same room as musicians to hear their performance. Music became democratized, available to everyone regardless of wealth or status. And now your modern age, where music is everywhere, constant, inescapable. People walk through the city with music in their ears, isolated in their own auditory worlds. The shared experience of a concert hall has been replaced by individual listening, personal playlists, algorithm-selected songs. I'm not sure this is progress. There was something powerful about experiencing music communally, about a room full of people all moved by the same sounds at the same moment. But perhaps I am simply old, resistant to change, nostalgic for earlier times. Let me tell you about the river. The city is built beside it, has always been built beside it, grew up along its banks because rivers mean trade and transportation and water for drinking and washing. The river has been the city's lifeline for as long as the city has existed. I have watched the river through every season, every century. I have seen it frozen solid in brutal winters, seen people walk across it, drive carts across it, hold festivals on its ice. I have seen it flood in spring, breaking its banks, pouring through the low-lying districts, destroying homes and lives. I have seen it in summer, running low and sluggish, almost too small for the great stone bridges that span it. I have seen it in autumn, reflecting the colors of the turning leaves, mirroring the golden light. The river has changed dramatically over the centuries. It was clean when I was human, clear enough to see the bottom in most places, full of fish that people caught and ate. Then came industry, and the river became a sewer filled with factory waste and human refuse, so polluted that nothing could live in it, so toxic that children who fell in sometimes died from the contamination. That was a dark time. I remember standing on the bridges at night, looking down at the black, oily water, seeing the chemical sheen on its surface, smelling the stench that rose from it. The river that had given life to the city was dying, was dead, was worse than dead. It had become poisonous. But then came the environmental movements of your modern age. Laws were passed. Factories were forced to stop dumping waste. Sewage treatment was improved. And slowly, painfully slowly, the river began to recover. Fish returned. The water cleared. The smell improved. Now, in your time, the river is alive again. Not as pristine as it was in my youth, but cleaner than it has been in 2 centuries. People boat on it, fish in it, sit beside it in the parks that line its banks. It is a success story, proof that humans can repair the damage they cause, that it is not too late to change course. This gives me hope. If you can bring a dead river back to life, what else might you accomplish? What other damage might you repair? What other systems might you restore? The river teaches patience. It has flowed here for millennia, long before the city existed, and it will flow here for millennia after the city crumbles to dust. It has seen everything, human triumph and human folly, creation and destruction, life and death. And it continues flowing, indifferent to it all, following the ancient grooves it has carved in the earth. I'm like the river in some ways. I flow through time while everything around me changes. I am constant while all else is temporary. I witness everything but participate in nothing or very little. I am both permanent and irrelevant, enduring and insignificant. But unlike the river, I am not indifferent. I care. I care deeply about the lives flowing past me, the small human dramas playing out along my banks. I care about protecting and preserving, about bearing witness and remembering. The river has no consciousness, no concern for what it touches. I do. This caring is perhaps both my curse and my salvation. Let me tell you about faith, religion, the great questions of meaning and purpose that humans have grappled with throughout history. I was raised Christian in a time when everyone was Christian, when the church dominated every aspect of life. I believed as much as a boy can believe in things he has never questioned. I prayed. I attended Massachusetts. I feared hell and hoped for heaven. Then I died and rose again as something that should not exist, something that contradicts the natural order God supposedly created. What was I to make of my faith then? Was I damned? Was I a demon? Was I being punished for sins I did not remember committing? Or was I simply evidence that the universe is stranger and more complex than religious doctrine suggests? I struggled with these questions for decades. I prayed in my early years of undeath, begging for forgiveness, for salvation, for release from this cursed existence. But the heavens were silent. No answers came. No divine intervention rescued me from what I had become. Eventually I stopped praying. Not because I definitively stopped believing, but because prayer seemed pointless. If God existed and cared about me, surely he would have responded to my desperate pleas. If God existed and did not care, then prayer was futile. And if God did not exist, then I was praying to nothing. But I have not become an atheist. I have become uncertain. Agnostic, perhaps, though even that word does not quite capture my position. I have seen too much to be sure the universe is meaningless, but I have also seen too much suffering to believe in a benevolent deity who intervenes in human affairs. Perhaps there is something beyond our understanding, some organizing principle or cosmic consciousness that gives meaning to existence. Perhaps we are all part of some vast pattern we cannot perceive from our limited perspective. Or perhaps we are alone, consciousness briefly flickering in an indifferent universe, creating our own meaning because no one else will create it for us. I do not know. After 5 centuries, I still do not know. And I have come to accept that I may never know, that perhaps knowing is not the point. What I do know is this: whether or not God exists, whether or not there is ultimate meaning, we still have to choose how to live. We still have to decide whether to cause harm or prevent it, whether to create beauty or destroy it, whether to love or hate, help or hinder, protect or pray. I have chosen protection. I have chosen to use this cursed existence for something good, or at least something less evil than it might be. This choice gives my existence meaning, regardless of whether there is any cosmic meaning underlying it all. And I have watched humans make similar choices throughout history. I have seen atheists live with profound moral purpose. I have seen believers commit terrible evils in the name of their faith. I have seen people of all religions and no religion act with courage and compassion and kindness. Faith or lack of faith does not determine goodness. Actions determine goodness. Choices determine character. What you do with your brief time matters infinitely more than what you believe about the nature of ultimate reality. You are good, I think. I sense it in you, even though we have not spoken, even though I only watched you sleep. There is a gentleness about you, a kindness, a decency. These qualities are more valuable than any religious conviction or philosophical certainty. Nurture them. Protect them. Do not let cynicism or suffering or the cruelty you witness in the world harden your heart. Goodness is rare and precious, and the world desperately needs whatever goodness you can offer. Let me tell you about loneliness. My loneliness, which is profound and perpetual and nearly unbearable. I'm always alone. Even when I am surrounded by humans, I am alone. I cannot truly connect with them, cannot reveal what I am, cannot build relationships that require honesty and vulnerability. I am forever outside, looking in, watching life but not living it. There is no one like me to talk to. Isabel is dead. The other vampires I have encountered were either hostile or so damaged by their condition that conversation was impossible. I am isolated not just from humanity but from my own kind. This loneliness is not like human loneliness. You can end your loneliness, make a friend, join a community, reach out to someone. My loneliness is structural, inherent in what I am. I cannot end it without revealing myself, and revealing myself would likely lead to my destruction or would burden someone else with the terrible knowledge of what I am. So I endure. I watch. I remember. I protect. And I am always alone. Sometimes the loneliness is crushing. There are nights when I stand on the cathedral roof and scream silently at the moon, overwhelmed by the weight of centuries, the accumulation of loss, the knowledge that this will never end, that I will be alone like this forever until something finally destroys me. But then I see something that reminds me why I continue. A couple holding hands. A parent comforting a child. Friends laughing together. These small moments of connection between humans remind me that connection is possible, that love exists, that loneliness can be conquered, even if I cannot conquer my own. And I tell myself that my loneliness serves a purpose. By being isolated, by standing apart, I can better protect. I am not distracted by my own relationships and dramas. I can focus entirely on watching, guarding, preserving. My loneliness is the price I pay for being an effective guardian. This is a comforting lie. The truth is that I am lonely because I am a coward, because I am afraid of rejection, afraid of eventually causing pain to anyone I might let close to me. The truth is that I could find ways to connect if I were braver, more willing to risk vulnerability. But I am what I am. And what I am is alone. You are not alone though. Remember this. Even in your loneliest moments, even when you feel isolated and disconnected, you are part of the great human community. You share the fundamental experience of being human with billions of others. You have the capacity to reach out, to connect, to build relationships. Do not waste this capacity. Do not let fear or pride or hurt keep you isolated. Humans need each other. You need other people and other people need you. Connection is what makes life meaningful, what makes the brief time you have precious and worthwhile. Reach out. Take risks. Be vulnerable. Let people see you, really see you with all your flaws and fears and foolishness. And see them in return with compassion and curiosity and care. This is how loneliness is defeated, not by finding someone perfect, but by being imperfectly present with imperfect others, creating meaning together through shared experience. Let me tell you about transformation. How things change, how people change, how even someone like me can change despite being frozen in this undead state. I have changed profoundly over the centuries. Not physically, I look exactly as I did the night I was transformed, young and unchanging. But psychologically, emotionally, morally, I am completely different from what I was. When I was newly made, I was a monster. Pure appetite, pure hunger, no conscience or control. I killed without thought, fed without mercy, took what I wanted because I could. I was everything the stories say vampires are: predatory, evil, inhuman. This phase lasted perhaps 50 years. 50 years of blood and violence and self-hatred. 50 years of being exactly what I most feared becoming. I cannot undo those years. The people I killed remain dead. The harm I caused remains real. No amount of regret or remorse can change what I was. But I changed. Slowly, painfully, I developed control. I learned to resist the hunger, to make choices rather than simply reacting to instinct. I learned to see humans as people again rather than as prey. I relearned empathy, compassion, moral reasoning. This transformation took decades. It was not a single moment of enlightenment but a gradual process of becoming someone different, someone better, someone I could live with being. And it is still ongoing. Even now, after centuries of choosing goodness, I am still working on being good, still struggling against the darker impulses that are part of my nature. This gives me hope for humanity. If even a vampire can change, can choose to be better than their nature dictates, then surely humans can too. You are not fixed, not trapped by your past or your mistakes or your worst impulses. You can change. You can become someone different, someone better. I have watched people transform throughout their lives. The cruel child who becomes a compassionate adult. The selfish youth who becomes a generous elder. The person trapped in addiction who finds recovery. The bitter cynic who rediscovers joy. The coward who finds courage. The liar who learns honesty. Change is always possible. It is never too late to become someone different. Your past does not determine your future unless you let it. You can make different choices starting now, starting today, and those choices will gradually accumulate into a different life, a different self. But change is hard. It requires honesty about what you are and what you want to become. It requires consistent effort, day after day, choice after choice. It requires accepting setbacks and failures as part of the process rather than as proof that change is impossible. I failed many times in my transformation. There were periods when I backslid, when I returned to old patterns, when I gave in to the hunger despite my vows. But I kept trying. I kept choosing over and over to be something other than a monster. And eventually, gradually, I became something else. You can do this too. Whatever you want to change about yourself, whatever better self you want to become, you can work toward it. Not easily, not quickly, but genuinely, really, truly. Change is possible because humans are not fixed. You are fluid, dynamic, constantly becoming something new. Use this gift. Become the person you want to be. Transform yourself through small, repeated choices into someone you can be proud of. Do not settle for being less than you could be. Do not accept your flaws as permanent when they could be improved. This is perhaps the greatest advantage you have over me. You change naturally, inevitably, whether you want to or not. Time shapes you, experiences mold you, aging transforms you. I had to fight against my frozen nature to change it all. You change simply by living. Make your changes intentional. Choose who you are becoming rather than accepting whatever randomness makes of you. Be deliberate about the self you are creating through your daily choices and habits. Let me tell you about memory. How it changes over time, how it shapes identity, how it both preserves and distorts the past. I have 5 centuries of memories. This should be an overwhelming amount, an impossible burden of accumulated experience. And in some ways it is. I remember too much, carry too much history in my head, can never fully be present because the past is always crowding in. But memory is selective and malleable even for me. I do not remember everything. Much has faded or been lost. What I do remember has been shaped by the act of remembering, changed slightly each time I recall it so that my memories are now as much reconstruction as retrieval. I remember Catherine, but is the Catherine I remember the real woman who lived and breathed centuries ago? Or is she a fiction I have created through repeated recollection, smoothed and idealized and transformed into someone who never quite existed? I no longer know. The real Catherine is lost to me, replaced by my memory of her, which may bear little resemblance to reality. This troubles me. I am supposed to be the one who remembers, who preserves the past, who keeps history alive. But if my memories are unreliable, if they have been altered by time and repetition, then what am I preserving? A fantasy? A version of the past that never truly was? Perhaps all memory is like this. Perhaps no one remembers the past accurately. Perhaps we all carry fictionalized versions of our histories, stories we tell ourselves about who we were and what happened, stories that serve our present needs more than they reflect past realities. If this is true, then perhaps my role is not to preserve the past accurately but simply to preserve it at all. Better a distorted memory than no memory. Better a simplified version of someone's life than complete oblivion. I'm not a perfect archive, but I am an archive nonetheless, and that matters. Your memories matter too. The stories you tell about your life, the experiences you recall, the lessons you think you have learned, these shape who you are, whether or not they are completely accurate. Your memory is part of your identity, part of how you understand yourself and your place in the world. So choose your memories carefully. Not that you can control what you remember, the brain does that automatically without conscious input. But you can choose which memories you rehearse, which stories you tell about yourself, which parts of your past you give attention and weight to. Do not define yourself by your worst moments. Do not let your mistakes and failures become the central narrative of your identity. Remember also your successes, your kindnesses, your moments of courage and growth. Create a balanced story about who you are, one that acknowledges flaws without being overwhelmed by them. And make new memories worth keeping. Live in ways that will give your future self good stories to tell, good experiences to recall, good evidence that your life was well lived. You are beginning to wake now. I can sense it. Your breathing is changing, becoming less deep, more varied. Your eyelids are fluttering. Soon you will open your eyes and return to full consciousness, and when you do, I will be gone. The sky is lightening steadily. Dawn is perhaps 20 minutes away. I must leave soon, must return to my crypt before the sun breaks the horizon. But I want to stay here with you until the last possible moment, want to watch you wake, want to see you return safely to the waking world. I've told you so much tonight. Centuries of observation and experience, distilled into this long vigil beside your sleeping form. I do not know if any of it will reach you, if you will carry even fragments of these words into your waking life. But I had to speak them anyway, had to break my long silence, had to reach across the barrier between us and try to communicate something true and important. You matter. Your life matters. The choices you make matter. The love you give matters. The beauty you create matters. The kindness you show matters. All of it matters, even though you will die, even though you will be forgotten, even though in the grand cosmic scale your life is the briefest flicker of light in an eternity of darkness. It matters because you are conscious, because you can feel and think and choose. It matters because you can reduce suffering or increase it, create beauty or destroy it, connect with others or isolate yourself. These choices have real consequences for real beings, and that makes them meaningful, regardless of whether there is any ultimate cosmic meaning underlying it all. I have spent 5 centuries watching humans make these choices. I have seen the best and worst of what your species is capable of. And despite everything, despite all the cruelty and stupidity and selfishness I have witnessed, I still believe in you. I still believe humanity is worth protecting, worth preserving, worth caring about. You are worth protecting. You, specifically, this individual person sleeping on this bench. Not because you are special or chosen or destined for greatness, but because you are human, because you are alive, because you have the capacity to add something good to the world or to reduce something bad. Because your life, however ordinary it may seem, is a unique and unrepeatable phenomenon in the universe. The cathedral bells are ringing. It chimes. The city is waking. I can hear sounds in the distance, traffic beginning, voices calling, the daily machinery of human life starting up again. And you are waking too, returning from whatever dreams my presence may have inspired. I stand now, silent as shadow, and I step back from the bench. I fade into the morning mist that still clings to the cemetery garden. But I pause at the edge of visibility just for one more moment to watch you. Your eyes open. You sit up slowly, confused, disoriented. You look around at the fog, at the cathedral, at the bench where you slept. You check your phone, trying to orient yourself in time. You do not see me. I am just another shadow, another patch of mist, indistinguishable from the morning itself. But I see you, and I will remember you. This night, this vigil, this strange communion between us, I will carry it with me into all the nights to come. You have given me something precious without knowing it. You have reminded me of my purpose, of my humanity, of the reasons I continue this endless watch. Thank you. Though you will never hear these words consciously, thank you. Now you are standing, stretching, preparing to leave this place and return to your life. And I must leave too, must flee to my dark sanctuary before the sun destroys me. Our time together is ending. This strange, one-sided conversation must come to a close. But before I go, let me leave you with this. You are not alone. You are seen. You are valued. You are protected. Not by anything you can understand or acknowledge, but by something that watches from the shadows, something that has chosen to care about you despite all reason, despite all the loneliness and loss and centuries of separation. Live your life fully. Love without fear. Create without hesitation. Connect without reservation. Be brave, be kind, be yourself. Make mistakes and learn from them. Take risks and accept the consequences. Experience everything you can while you can. And when the darkness comes, as it does for everyone eventually, know that darkness is not always evil. Sometimes it is simply the absence of light. Sometimes it is the space where unseen things watch and protect. Sometimes it is home to creatures who have lost the light but not the capacity to care about those who still possess it. The sun is rising. The first rays are touching the top of the cathedral spire, turning the stone golden. I have only moments left before I must retreat. Farewell, sweet dreamer. Live well, be well, and know that in this old city, among these ancient stones, there is something that watches over you, something that wishes you well, something that will be here in the shadows long after you are gone, your guardian in the darkness, your protector in the night, your silent friend in the shadows, always watching, always caring, always here, until the stars fall and the world ends, until all things come to their final rest. I am here, protecting you, remembering you, loving you in whatever way the dead can love the living. Goodbye, my dear. Goodbye. Sleep well when you sleep again, and live well in all the days between now and then. This is my blessing. This is my promise. This is my eternal vow. You are safe. You are loved. You are not alone. Never alone. Forever watched over. Forever protected. Forever held in the heart of something ancient and strange that has chosen you as its own. Go now. Return to your life. And carry with you in whatever way you can the knowledge that you are precious, that you matter, that your life is worth living fully and joyfully and bravely. This is what I give you. This is my gift. The only gift a creature like me can offer. Protection. Witness. Care. Take it. Use it. What? And I will watch. Always watching. Until the end of all things. Goodbye.